Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 2021 Buyer Insights and Intelligence series. I hope you are having a great week so far and are enjoying the sessions. My name is Claudia Tarico, and I'm the editor of Demand Gen Report, and I will be your moderator for this presentation. Our first session of the day is titled How to Keep Improving Your Customer Experience in a More Private Digital Marketplace. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we begin, I'm going to run through a few housekeeping slides and then we will kick things off. So for those of you who are new to Demand Gen Report, welcome. We are an online media company publishing everything from daily news items, product launches, a weekly email newsletter, special reports. We've got original research and just a ton of additional resources for B2B marketing and sales professionals. So if you haven't done so already, join more than 75,000 subscribers to our weekly newsletter by checking out demandgenreport.com today. And after and during today's session, of course, catch us on social media, share your thoughts, feedback, say hi, whatever you want to do. You could even use the hashtag BII21. All of our links and handles for Twitter and LinkedIn are right here on your screen, and we look forward to chatting with you on social media. And I also want to take this time to announce something really, really exciting for us. We are going back to in-person events this August with our B2B Sales and Marketing Exchange. Come check us out. It's a 3-day event in Boston. Won't be as big as it used to be this time around, a little more intimate, hoping to gather a decent amount of B2B sales and marketing professionals to come to Boston. So check it out. Our agenda is filling up really fast. So I hope to see you there. You could go to b2bsalesmarketing.exchange. That's our website. So come and check it out. I'm also really excited to share that we have partnered with our friends at Grubhub once again to offer some lucky attendees a free lunch while they enjoy the series. So check your inboxes. You might have gotten an email with some lunch credit from Grubhub. Even check that spam or junk folder as well, because that might be hiding in there for you as well. But yeah, so enjoy your free lunch if you got that. And finally, just wanted to run through the platform that we are using today. It's On24. And during the presentation, you could access really everything you need on the toolbar that you see on your screen. Of course, we encourage you to ask our presenters questions today. So to do so, simply click the Q&A widget at the top right corner of your screen. The session is slated to run about 30 to 35 minutes with a few extra minutes of Q&A following the session. So submit those questions using that widget at any time. And then if you want to see what else we have in store for the series this year and what's going on for the rest of the week, you could access all of the BII sessions on the right of your screen, right under that Q&A widget. And then right below that, you'll find some additional resources that we've made available to you. The session today is being recorded, and all of our attendees will receive an archive link to the presentation to go back and review and share with colleagues. And then, of course, in addition to joining the conversation online, submitting your questions, going on social media, and all that fun stuff, please let us know how we are doing. We put together a very brief survey that will automatically launch when the session ends. You can also pull up, complete, and submit the survey at any time during the webinar by clicking on this little survey icon at the bottom of your screen. You can see it circled there on the slide. So before signing off today, please take a moment to complete this quick questionnaire so we could continue to enhance our virtual events to your liking. All right, well, I am now very excited to introduce our featured speakers of the day, Kate Adams and Jeff Foley of Validity. Kate is SVP of Marketing at Validity and leads all of the company's marketing efforts. Prior to Validity, Kate was Vice President of Marketing at Drift, where she discovered her passion for helping marketing and sales professionals and marketers. While she was there, she built the demand generation function from the ground up, achieving more than 200% in pipeline growth. And then before Drift, Kate led the demand generation and marketing operations teams at Smart Bear, where she managed the pipeline generation for a portfolio of more than 20 products. Jeff is the Senior Director of Product Marketing at Validity. He's a marketing executive with over 2 decades of experience growing high-tech companies. His career spans 24 years of aligning with counterparts in sales and development organizations to deliver on a new technology's promise. Jeff holds a BS and MEng degrees in electrical engineering, which is so cool, and computer science from MIT. So we've got 2 really awesome, smart people on the line today. They're always a wealth of knowledge, so I'm excited to learn from them during the session. So with that, I'm going to pass things over to Kate to kick things off. Kate, all yours.
Claudia, thanks so much. It's always a pleasure being introduced by such a tenured professional like yourself. So thank you so much for that. As Claudia mentioned, we are here at the Buyer Insights and Intelligent webinar series to talk about how to keep improving your customer experience in a more private digital marketing landscape. Claudia already did this so much justice, but I know that both Jeff and I would love to connect with anybody on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear your feedback on this session, if it was valuable, what ideas that you walked away with, what you'll implement, and what you'll change as a result of giving your most precious asset to us today, which is your time. So thank you so much. And it's always such a pleasure to share the virtual stage. Although so exciting to hear that it's coming back to in-person here, and very quickly with B2B MX right here in our own backyard in Boston. We have a jam-packed agenda today, so we'll get right into the meat of it. So first up, we want to cover what the latest changes from Apple and Google mean for today's digital marketers. Next up, we're going to talk about what you should think about while navigating this new digital landscape. Then we'll cover how to leverage the data you have at your fingertips to create better digital experiences for your future and current customers. And then lastly, we are going to give you some real tangible things on what you should be measuring to define the success of your digital experiences. And so with that, Jeff, you're going to talk to us about what are some of the digital trends that we are seeing as of late.
Sounds good, Kate. Thanks again, and thanks. Great to see everybody here virtually, if not in person sometime soon. So I'm going to talk about some of those digital trends that we mentioned, specifically starting with the news from Apple and Google, and then we'll dig into some of the other implications of that as well. If you've been following the news, you know that Apple seems to be focusing on privacy, consumer privacy, as a business advantage for them. They are making lots of changes, lots of in the name of consumer privacy, and using that to differentiate themselves from some of the alternatives out there. Two noticeable examples stick out recently. One is in the most recent iOS 14.5, this ad tracking known as app tracking transparency. If you're an Apple device user, you've probably seen these notifications pop up on any of your devices, on your Apple TV or on your Mac, asking for permission to track your behavior. That's new behavior that Apple added to, again, give consumers a chance to stop some of these other companies from tracking and targeting their advertisements based on the behavior of the consumer. And that it's certainly consumer privacy. Advocates see that as a very exciting thing, but for marketers that might have relied on that information, suddenly they might feel like they're not understanding or knowing their customer as much as they might have before. Even more noticeable is this new idea called the mail privacy protection, which Apple will be rolling out in some of their future versions of their operating systems. Sounds like as good an idea in practice as the app tracking transparency, but it has even broader implications. What's happening here is that the Apple Mail client, it's following the same examples that mailbox providers like Gmail in 2013 and Yahoo in 2018 did, which is preventing these email measurements from understanding when people have opened or otherwise interacted with their email, so that they can, again, control the flow of information back to other sources. Because Apple Mail client dominates the market, maybe 40 to 50% of the market share of people that are using email clients compared to Gmail and Outlook and Yahoo Mail. What this means practically for us as marketers is that the open rate stat that we all know and love as email marketers may become less reliable as an indicator of the success of your email campaigns. And that has implications for how we as marketers take care of our customers when they are when we are sending emails, to understand if the content we're providing them is of interest to them. So these are, again, great for consumer privacy, great things that Apple is doing, but has some implications for how we as marketers interact with our customers. Now, Google is also in the same area with their Privacy Sandbox initiative. And these have very noble intentions as well, as you see, building a more private open web. And they talk about some of the goals of that, about the vitality of the open web and making sure that publishers can build sustainable sites. What this actually means from a marketer standpoint is, you may have heard of this as the demise of third-party cookies. Google plans to eliminate third-party cookies used for tracking. And it's amazing how many marketing pieces of data benefit from that information, from retargeting ads to site personalization to the stats that we collect to understand our audience. Now, Google's been slightly thwarted by this position and working with regulators to make sure that it's not just something they're doing for their own business advantage, but something they're doing for all of us. So that's been pushed off till 2023. The good news is that gives us some time to figure out what does this actually mean as we as marketers adjust to understand what's happening in the direction of consumer privacy and how that affects our interactions with customers. So, Kate, I'm going to throw it back to you just to talk about, these are just a few dips in the water related to data, but the amount of data that's happening these days is pretty staggering, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely staggering. And speaking of which, Google, Facebook, and Microsoft and Amazon, just those 4 companies alone, store at least 1,200 petabytes of information. And if you're like me and didn't know what a petabyte was, that actually ends up being, what was that stat? 1.2 billion gigabytes, right, of data. So it is astounding, right, the amount of data that we as people navigating the web, using, as you've talked about, Jeff, just now, using this device or a Google device or whatever device you're using at currently, all of that, we're leaving digital footprints kind of all over the place, right? And so these companies are storing all of that data. And in some instances, Jeff, as you just talked about, making that data available to their partners, right? And Google has chosen to now allow all of us that are using Apple devices to decide what data they will or will not share based on our app usage, which, if you're like me, look, I'm torn on all of these new changes, right? In some ways, as a consumer, I'm really excited that hopefully now I don't say a single word around the presence of my iPhone and all of a sudden have an ad for exactly whatever I just mentioned appear as I'm scrolling mindlessly through Instagram. And in other places, like as a marketer, I'm torn because I'm saying, man, do these companies actually realize kind of what I've been through as a marketer over these past 16, 17 months here in order to change? In some of us have changed entire business models, entire product offerings, changed so much over such a short period of time, right? It's certainly been traumatic, to say the least. But nonetheless, right, we have more data at our fingertips. You have more data today because all of your marketing has moved over this last year and a half to digital. You have more data at your fingertips. So in some ways, right, the Google elimination of third-party cookies, and Google is kind enough to give us a year reprieve there. In some ways, it is actually, I have more first-party data right? And Jeff, you're going to talk more about this in a bit, but I have more first-party data at my fingertips than I've ever had before. But the amount of data that we're all processing is just absolutely through the roof and unimaginable. Another trend right here from our friends at PwC, that AI could contribute up to $15.7 trillion to the global economy in 2030, right? I know that many of us, myself certainly included, are looking at how we can utilize AI to improve our customer experiences across the board. There are a million ways, some of which are really tactical and certainly things that I can imagine us using today, like being able to use AI and machine learning to make provide a better web experience for folks throughout as they go throughout that customer journey that we all know and love. And in other ways I know that there are things that I'm not even thinking about that soon, within the next 2 to 3 years, ways that AI will kind of infiltrate how we work today as marketers. And it's astounding to see how much the contribution will be in terms of revenue around the entire global economy. Another trend is that, Jeff mentioned the Apple Mail privacy changes that are coming down the pike here. But the reality is that year over year, and this is through looking at our own data, we have one of the biggest email data sets I think in the world at this point right now. When we look at email volume right now, year over year, email volume was up 94%. But inbox placement, so the amount of email being sent from companies, is up almost 100% year over year. But as a result of that, the amount of mail that's actually landing in the inbox, the thing that all of us actually read the most, right? I don't know about you, but I only do a cleanup of my spam folder maybe once a month or once every other month if I'm lucky, right? It depends on the weather. I think rainy days I'm more apt to check my spam filter than ever, but I only check that every now and again, right? And so actually getting to where people are reading is harder than ever. Inbox placement, open rates, and click rates are actually all falling down. And because we all know that as consumers, right? Like the more mail that is hitting me, I am becoming more and more discerning with what messages I can actually read. I didn't all of a sudden, just because email volume is up 100%, I didn't get 100% more time in my day, right? I still have the same amount of time in my day that I've always had. And so I'm becoming more and more discerning about what mail I'm reading. And to be honest, to be quite frank, I'm opting out of more and more mail because it's just inundating me. I can't stand the type A personality in me, can't stand when that number icon gets beyond a new threshold. And so I often find myself, as I'm kind of sitting in traffic or sitting on a train, please don't, sorry for anybody that's a police officer on the line, like don't pull me over. I try not to use my device while driving, but while I'm stopped in traffic, I am constantly just deleting mail out of that inbox so I can get that number down, right? I want to feel that sense of accomplishment. But that's the state of email marketing today, right? And another stat here from Informatica and then from Serious Decisions is that every year, 30% of our customer data decays. And in B2B, I've got some bad news for all of us B2B folks on the phone. That can be as high as 70%. And this stat was actually pre-pandemic. Nobody has done, and I'm hoping that we will do some research on this very soon, but nobody's done the post-pandemic view of this. So I actually believe that 30%, that 70%, those are on the low end. I think with there's been so many factors, right? During the pandemic, unfortunately, there were so many companies that had to do a number of different layoffs, which caused an acceleration of this customer decay in a great way. And then there's been this new trend of the Great Resignation. For all of you thinking about becoming members of that movement, congratulations. I will be here still at this office typing away, but I will not be a part of that trend. But the Great Resignation is going to decay that data even more than we've ever seen it before. So I know for a fact that this data is on the rise pretty significantly. 25% of the average B2B database is actually just inaccurate. And that's for a whole multitude of reasons, right? If you think about all of the data that is coming into your system on a regular basis, there are so many inputs of it, right? There are content syndication vendors. There's people that are providing you that data themselves. I have been known to, every once in a while, provide inaccurate data for people that I just want the content. I don't actually want the follow-up, right? There are so many different reasons why that data becomes inaccurate. And so being able to trust that data, right, of which we're all reliant so that we can become better marketers at the end, so that we can improve the outcomes of our marketing at the end of the day, is just so important, right? Another trend, this is from our good friends at Brafton. 70% of B2B buyers watch a video as part of their product research before conversion, right? So if you think about, we have seen, there are so many trends here that we're talking about right now. So as a marketer, you have to worry about AI. You have to worry about the tried and true channels like email marketing and what's happening there. But here you've got video. It feels like we've been talking about video forever, and it feels like it's finally taken its seat at the adult table here, the adult table in Thanksgiving. I don't know if families are like mine. We have a kids table and an adult table. I think video has finally moved up and graduated to the adult table here, with 70% of B2B buyers are watching a video. So imagine all of the pages that you don't have video for, or products that you don't have video offerings for, right? You need to think about, we all as marketers have to think about all the different modalities that people are, and the different ways that people want to learn and educate themselves. Do you have video as part of that process for your products and services? Few other stats here. Salesforce, their state of marketing report, 73% of customers say that a great experience with one brand raises their expectations of every brand. So congratulations. We have all done a tremendous, amazing, wonderful job over these last 16 to 18 months, upping our game, taking our in-person game into fully digital, creating amazing brands, creating great experiences. There's another stat. I know I'm a wealth of stats here, but there's another stat here that talks about that we talked about the digital transformation. Twilio did a state of marketing and COVID report, where they talked about the digital transformation that enterprises had guessed they had gone through was 6 years of digital transformation in a matter of 6 months. That was in the first 6 months of the pandemic. Absolutely astounding. Things have changed at a breakneck pace. And now the experience that you have is now being measured against that of all of your competitors, and even not of your competitors, just the experiences that they're having in just digital experiences across the board, right? 84% of customers say that the experience a company provides is as important as its products or services. So let's think about that for a moment, right? When Mark Benioff was creating the SaaS category, I'm not sure that even he had envisioned where we would all be today, right? But there is SaaS absolutely everywhere. Everything has been quote unquote SaaSified, right? And I think now people have come to terms with, wow, yes, great. It's so easy to buy software, but I don't just need software. I need a service or help at actually implementing and getting value out of it, right? We've all moved into this kind of solution-based marketing, like, don't just tell me that you can solve the problem, but tell me how you can solve the problem and why it's better, right? And that is what I think is being told here, is that too many of us have been duped into being the next ARR candidate for all of these companies, right? We sign on the dotted line on that 12-month agreement, but that's when I talk about this idea of like, hey, my journey is really just getting started. And now the countdown clock, and I apologize for any vendor who's done business with me, you have actually lived this, but like the countdown clock has now begun. And I'm thinking about how long until we get to value, how long until I'm getting to ROI on that money, right? Because I try to be the best steward of our dollars or our company dollars as I possibly can be, as I know all of you try to be as well. And so you're trying to make sure that for whatever dollars you just got the company to commit to spending, that you can get that money back, right? And that is what is so critical and so important. So Jeff, okay, now we've got all these trends. I've got video, I've got email through the roof, I've got AI coming at me, I've got all this other stuff. Like, now what? Now what am I supposed to do?
It's a good question, and I'm sure that most marketers are asking themselves the same questions with all of these things. I mean, we thought we just figured out the pandemic and figured out all the things that we needed to do to change the way we behaved then. Now what? Now what do we do to deal with all these new changes that are coming and some of the continuations of old ones? Well, I think that the intersection of customer experience and all of this with the digital transformations, it really is data, and specifically the kinds of data we're collecting, because that is the unifying factor. That is the foundation that guides all of our marketing efforts, that makes sure that we know that the money we're spending is for a good reason and that we're getting the returns that we expect. Let me level set for a second. There's a lot of different data that shows up at the data party. So I want to try to make sure people throw these terms around, but there's this idea of I'll start on the right side here of third-party data. The information that we just talked about, Google potentially cutting off, but that information you get from other sources. There's second-party data, which is this idea of maybe a good example is there might be a luxury car brand that shares its first-party data, its own data, with another organization that sells luxury watches, so that they know that they appeal to the same audience. But first-party data is what we talk about and is where it's at. That's the data that you are collecting. That's the data that you have directly from your audience or customer base, from the people that you're serving. And that first-party data is becoming even more and more important. That is top quality compared to the other forms of customer data for lots of reasons that we've shown on this slide. That's where you're getting the highest quality insights, because it's the stuff that you can use to create those personalized experiences. It's the things you can use to improve your targeting and retargeting. It's what you can use to predict future trends. It's more reliable because you collected it, so the source can be trusted. This is no scary list of emails from somebody that emailed you out of the blue saying that they had a whole list of leads for you from such and such a show. Like, this is your stuff. You know that you can rely on it. It's the least expensive because you're collecting it at no additional cost. You're not spending to get it from somewhere else. And there's minimal privacy concerns because you know where that data came from and that you have the consent to use it. So marketing and sales are going to be relying more on first-party data to build those AI systems, to build those personalized experiences, to build that understanding and that relationship with the customers. You may even hear the term zero-party data, which is coming out, which is another form of first-party data. That's information that customers intentionally and proactively share with you so that they can have a better experience. And so that is the world of data. And lest you think it's just whatever you type in on a form, I think it's more than that. When you say, Kate, it's pervasive throughout the whole customer experience.
Yeah, 100%, Jeff. And I love this. I forgot to. So fun fact, Jeff and I are actually in the same office because Validity has opened up our offices this week. We have the privilege of being in the same office. But ironically, because of how we filmed and we don't have our webinar studio up just yet, we are in different rooms on here. So, that's a long way to say I forgot my party hat. I forgot to bring my party hat to the office today for this first party, for your data party. But yeah, 100%, Jeff, right? And in some ways, I think the Google news, right, on eliminating third-party data, it kind of gives me a sense of relief, because I know that that I am not alone, and my inbox is being filled up full to the brim of different technology solutions, and many of them are all about selling me data. Right? Like, I've got data on this, I've got data on that, I've got data. And in some ways, it is so, it's astounding to me how much data for sale there actually is. But the reality is that if you want, the reason why you want this data, the reason why all of us as marketers want this data is so that we can understand where these folks are in our customer lifecycle, right? So that we can understand, are they in market? Do they even know about us? Are they trying to educate themselves on the problems that we can solve? Are they researching a solution like ours? Are they in a buying phase? Have they gone into that evaluation phase kind of across the board? Are they thinking about not retaining with their current provider, right? So can I do a rip and replace action there, right? The reality is the reason why we have this data party is that we're trying to sew together the pieces of this entire customer journey. We're trying to understand where people are, and we're trying to make sure that we can engage them and meet them where they are. But just like I just said, with so many data providers out there, so much data at our fingertips, all of the petabytes of data that just those four giant behemoth companies at Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon, all of those folks are collecting, right? Google. The reality is that sometimes it feels like this as a marketer, right? It's that old analogy about water, but I've swapped it out for data here. But it's data everywhere, but not a drop to trust. And why can't you trust it? Well, because 70% of our B2B databases are inaccurate, right? Because they are decaying 30%. At least 30% every single year, right? And so it is just becoming so difficult. I know every organization I've been at, I have had sales development, sales, customer success. All of these teams come to me and talk to me about how they are so reliant on this data to do their jobs and to do them well, but they cannot. They feel like, in some ways, like their arms are tied behind their backs at really being able to improve because our data set is in such a tough spot. Jeff, you have some data on, very meta, data on data, right? But you have some data on what folks are saying about what their problems are with their data, and some data on how folks have been able to improve it. Can you talk to us about that?
Absolutely. This is some data we obtained working with our partners at Demand Metric. We commissioned some research to better understand the state of that customer data, CRM data, over a representative sample of companies, whether they were, some of them were 5 users, some of them were 500 CRM users, just to understand, is data quality an issue? And, if you're worried about your data, then you should know that you are not alone. We saw only 5% of the companies said, nope, I'm fine, no data quality issues. So 5% of people are liars, because the other 95% said that, they had some sort of major CRM data quality issue, like missing data or duplicate data or incorrect data in some way, data that had expired. So in fact, only about 27% of the participants agreed with the claim that they had a true 360-degree view of their customers. So if you have data problems, there's a good chance that a lot of other people are worried about their data problems as well. The good news is those problems aren't being ignored. We asked participants, okay, what are you doing about that? So over 90% of them are doing something. They're taking some steps to try to improve data quality. They recognize the importance of that data that they're capturing. They want to be able to trust it. And this graph shows some of the different responses that organizations said they could check more than one to improve their data quality. Now, it's encouraging that people are doing something about this. What's concerning to me, and possibly many of you, is that the top method there is a manual one. I was listening to one of our customers talking about a situation he inherited. He had been with the company for almost 2 decades and had just recently been put in charge of their CRM systems. And he had a team of admins, and they were helping him do battle with this infinite loop of data quality problems that they were fighting. And the goal that he had articulated to us wasn't something about data quality or merging CRMs, though those were certainly things he was worried about. The thing he was most worried about was he had to keep hiring and replacing these temp workers to just go in and crawl through the database to manually fix all these problems. It's just crazy how much time is spent doing that. but he couldn't not keep them on their payroll because the CRM data was probably their most important asset. That's how they understood what was happening with their customers. So I talk a little bit about, what we found is that data management has three pillars of support. There's the data quality, the data governance, and the leadership support. Those are the three things that you need if you're tackling the data. This is the now what. This is the thing to do. Is if you're worried about your data quality, that you should put these pillars in place. Now, by data quality, that first pillar, I mean things like profiling, going through and identifying which data is actually important that you should keep around. Standardization, so that you know that it's all being stored in the same format so that the reports and other information you look at are accurate. Deduplication, because duplicate records grow like weeds in your garden. Verification and enrichment, because of that data decay that we talked about. Data goes stale. And then automation and monitoring, so you're not doing it manually, but so that these things are happening on a more regular basis and you don't have a whole cadre of temps coming in to help with that. That's the data quality side of things. The rules for making sure that those go in place become your data governance, the people, the processes, and the technologies, and that gives you standards and a plan. And then none of it works unless you have the leadership support behind it. You've got to have support from every level of your organization, but especially those executive sponsors who say, yeah, this is important. We're not going to be distracted by the next shiny thing. We're going to make sure that you are not running into challenges when you are pursuing this. Now, this all sounds very mom and apple pie. Hey, great thought leadership, Jeff. Where do you come up with that? Data quality, good. Yeah, fantastic. Well, one of the things that came out of that research was we looked at companies that were following those three pillars, that had leadership aware of the data quality issues and had prioritized it, that had ongoing data governance, and made sure that it was something that the entire company was aligned behind. And we found that only 8% of the people that responded to the survey could say that they had all three of those. And the difference between what that cohort, those 8% of people that were following these pillars and the rest of the respondents, was astounding. I mean, of the 276 qualified participants, only 8% said they could do that, but they had things like the quality of their data. Over half of them said it was very good, compared to 9% said it was very good. Do you trust your data? 90% of the 8% said top marks or the second, top two boxes, versus about 40% of the rest of the group said they trusted their data. So just being able to trust your data and be able to rely on that data is going to power all the rest of these things, and you do it by setting some of these things in place. So that's my advice for kind of breaking out of the now what quandary that you run into when you realize that some of your sources of data may be getting cut off, and you need to think about what you're going to do with that data that you do have. And what you can do with that data is make that experience more personalized. And for that, Kate, I'll let you talk about some concrete things that people can measure and do to personalize their experiences.
Love it. Thanks, Jeff. So let me just hit this home for you. So what do we give you? We gave you the trends that are happening. These are the digital trends that are happening in digital marketing right now. Hopefully you were aware of many of them, and hopefully we were able to tell you about some that you weren't aware of, right? We gave you the trends. We talked about, okay, great. So now we've got all of these trends going on. Data is at the core of many, many of those trends because it's at the foundation. It's at the foundation level of all of these things that you do. What I'm asking, what I'm going to give you right now is, Jeff just talked to you about, okay, great. So this is my foundation. We all know this, right? We all know that data is foundational as marketers, but for some reason or another, what we've done is said, well, that's not my job. Right? That's not my job. That's somebody else's job to worry about that. And so I'm just stuck with this subpar situation, and I just have to deal with it. Right? It's like all those sales reps that came to me, all those sales development reps that came to me and said, man, I wish I could do a better job, but I'm stuck with all this data. The reality is no. Because the true levers for improving data quality are that you have an interdisciplinary team, and that team is taking ownership about improving the quality of your data and working together as a team to go improve it so that you can be a part of that 8%, right? That has just an incredible amount of more trust in your data, that you can be a part of that 8% that actually thinks that their data is in a great situation, right? Because why you need to do that is so that you are able to build more personalized. So on top of that foundation, that strong foundational lever, this is what you're going to be able to do in terms of being able to roll out these more personalized experiences. And why is that? Well, I told you the stat on how consumer experiences with one brand are raising the bar for their experience with yours, right? So like other people are doing this, are improving that foundation and building on top of it. If you're not, you're going to get left behind, right? And you can't afford to get left behind, because I know that your Q4 goals, your Q3, your second half plan looks as big as mine does, right? You need growth in the second half. And so you need to start making sure that you're paying attention to this stuff. So let's give you the personalized experiences that you want to go build. So here's a little insight, right? Job changes within your customer base. So there's a stat around that 90% of the budget that any new person is going to add, or 90% of the budget asks that somebody is going to make in a new role, they're going to happen within the first 6 months of joining a company. And guess what those are? Those are asks for solutions that they had used at their last company. Right? Forrester talks about how 65% of new business is actually coming from referral from existing business, right? So Sue is an amazing champion. She speaks for you. She was behind a podium last week speaking on a webinar about how amazing your solution is. She just loves it. She thinks it's amazing, cannot talk about it enough. Her face is on your website. Her quote is in your case study. She's featured. She's spoken for you 4 different times. But guess what? Sue just got a new job, because the Great Resignation is in play. People are hiring back all of the folks that they had to lay off last year, right? Like, the job market is absolutely insane right now. She got a new job. She didn't have a chance to tell you, because she had to tell her manager and make sure that she was doing all the things that she needed to do in that 2 to 4 week notice that she gave. She didn't have a chance to tell you. But guess what? If you have your data set up correctly and you find a great service to help to facilitate you doing this, you can automatically notify the rep at Sue's new job that Sue, who is a champion who loves your solution, just landed this new job. You can send her a congratulatory note, and you can get in her right in that first 6 months, right? Congratulate her on that new role. And all of a sudden, now you've got Sue who's thinking about bringing your solution into this brand new company that she's at, right? You're making sure that you're top of mind for her, that you're going to help her solve the same problems you helped her solve at Acme Corp that you can at Beta Corp, right? That is an incredible experience where, like, guess what? Also, Sue now has even more affinity to your brand, because she understands that you're looking out for her, that you understand, hey, she didn't have to notify you that she got a new job, right? You just found out, and you were able to, you're such a big fan of hers, you were following her around, and you were able to leverage that to create an amazing experience in her mind, right? Winning her hearts and mind even more. Next up, stand out in the noise. So we talked about emails up 94%, inbox placement down, open rate down, click rate down. So you got to do something to help you stand out. Well, one of the things that you can do to help your company, your organization, your sales development, your CS team to stand out is, how are you creating and crafting more personalized email experiences? And a key way that I've done it in past organizations, and that we're doing it now, is making sure that we are creating really customized outreach, so that we don't just fall into that spam box, and that when we do actually get the eyeballs of somebody on our email, you can tell you that we have done our homework, that we understand what matters to you, and that here's why our solution is going to help you. right? And providing a really personalized experience that shows that I've done the work and I really, really can help you out in solving a problem that you're experiencing today. And so being able to stand out in that way is super, super important. Whether you do that via video, whether you figure out how to do that potentially with voice recordings, right? And LinkedIn Voice is becoming more and more prominent. There are so many ways that you can do this, but you must make sure that you are able to personalize that experience, show that you've done your homework. You can't provide that great experience if you're trying to build it on data that is incorrect or faulty. Next up, here's a great example of what Brex has done. Brex is actually able to greet Airbnb with their own customized landing page. This is Airbnb's exclusive offer from Brex, card fees waived forever. Sign up, right? Pretty simple, extraordinarily customized. But again, you can't do this unless you have the right data sets and you're able to create this amazing customized experience, right? And guess what? Now, whenever, I don't know who's competing with Brex, maybe like the traditional players in this space of credit, right? But when you go to American Express and Airbnb doesn't get a customized landing page, guess what? 73% of those people's expectations changed wildly once they had an experience like this. They are second guessing, like, wow, I really matter to Brex. Why don't I matter? I'm going to be a cog in the wheel for American Express or Visa or MasterCard or whatever it is, right? This is that idea of that brand experience standing out and elevating the experience across the board. Here's another great example of this. So this is Livestorm, who was able to actually detect that the visitor of their website was actually using Webinar Now, and then they were able to pull in this custom module within the landing page to say, this is what's different. This is the key differentiators between Livestorm and Webinar Now. Here's why you need to replace Webinar Now with Livestorm immediately, right? Think about that. That's an incredible experience, right? Like, oh my gosh, they've done their research. They know that I use Webinar Now. This is exactly what I'm looking for. Wow, what an experience that is, kind of across the board. And then lastly, as the world opens back up, we are all at B2B SMX in August. We're all just, I guess, a couple doors down, like Jeff and I are, right? Direct mail is going to come back. And so as we all know, in this in-person / hybrid / fully remote, who knows what organizations are doing what and how that will change over time. Direct mail is not going to get any less complex. And so now we all need to do a better job as marketers to be able to improve kind of understanding where these folks are, collecting that address information, being responsible and storing that responsibly and making sure that we do the right things with it, but being able to bring back experiences like this where that Airbnb has been able to do for one of their hosts, right? And providing them this host survival kit, right? Or providing them whatever direct mail experience you're going to have, right? That direct mail didn't lose value. In fact, pre-pandemic, everybody was really leaning into it in a major way. And I think that we are going to be able to go back to leaning into that again post-pandemic. It's just a matter of doing that and doing that correctly and making sure that we're able to confirm people's addresses, get the address that works and makes the most sense to them. Those are the personalized experiences we have for you. This is the last thing we have for you. So free, we've got this ebook, The Dirt on Data Quality. It's a step-by-step guide to data management so that you can get out of if you're buying into this mom and apple pie that Jeff's talking about data quality, data management, data integrity, all those things. This ebook is a great way to help you start to build that strong foundation, gives you a lot of tactical how-tos on exactly what matters, why it matters, et cetera. I want to thank you so much for giving us, again, your most precious asset, your time today. It means the world to me. I would love to hear feedback on this presentation, and I'd love to be helpful to you in any way that I can. Jeff, it's always a pleasure, my friend.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Kate. Absolutely.
Awesome. We're from Validity. Pleasure to see you. Claudia, I think that we have some questions from the people, and I can't wait to hear them.
Went too far there, but yes, we do. Thank you so much, Kate and Jeff. That was awesome. I personally learned so much because all of this data governance and, you know, all the cookie lists and all the different things going on right now is just a lot of information to take in. So this was awesome. And yeah, we did get some really great questions. But before I get to those, I just want to remind everyone once again to please share your thoughts and feedback with us by taking our brief little survey. You could click that survey icon right now, or you can wait for the survey to launch when the session ends. All right, and one more quick thing before I start the questions. I have some good ones saved here, but if we don't get to your question live right now, we will definitely follow up with answers via email. So keep those questions coming if anything does spark up. All right, so first one. If Apple's mail privacy protection doesn't let us see open rates, how can we measure success in email campaigns?
Sure, yeah, I can talk about that a little bit. There's a lot of things that can be measured besides open rates, and to be fair, as I mentioned earlier, it's almost like we've become a little too reliant on open rates when there's so many other things that are relevant for email marketing. There's things like, for one thing, it's further down the funnel, seeing how people are interacting with those emails. Are they clicking through? Are they going to your offers? Are they converting on the things that you're putting forward as a call to action in those emails? Those are better ways of measuring it. There are ways to measure things like your inbox placement rate, where you're understanding whether you're even making it past the spam filters and finding yourself in the inbox for people to even look at it. There are also ways to measure things about yourself, your sender reputation, for instance, which is a way of understanding, and sites like senderscore.org tell you whether you're properly have the reputation that these mailbox providers recognize, so that they aren't sending you to spam filters. So those sorts of things give you a much better way of understanding whether you are being successful as an email marketer, that go beyond the open rate as a way of measuring that information.
Awesome. Good stuff. Well, I just noticed the time, so I think we only have time for one more question live. So I'm going to toss that out right now. But, like I said, we'll answer everything via email after the session ends. Okay, last question. You talked about a lot of things to do to improve data quality. Where is the best place to start?
Sure, I can start on that, and then if Kate has some thoughts on it, she can add as well. I found that I threw out a lot of things there: profiling, standardization, deduplication. And often people just focus on just pulling the weeds out, as you mentioned, getting rid of the duplicates in their data. But really, it's about what find something that you're using that data for. Like find the report that you rely on for guidance or for those insights for what you're going to do next, and then work your way backwards from that. So if this report relies on this data, what do we need to do to make sure we're getting the right data for that? What do we need to do to profile so that that data is coming from the right sources? What do we need to do to make sure that it's standardized, so that if half the information is in there says California and the other half says CA, and so the report is picking up the wrong information and splitting that. Making sure that those reports are accurate is a good way to work backwards from what you're using the data for, to make sure that the data is getting the quality that you need. That's just one way to think of it, because as we mentioned, data quality has that impact on the decisions you make and the ways that you provide that personalized experience for customers.
I would just add to that, I think another key component would be, Claudia, would be to zoom out, right? It's really easy to, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? And so we're all just hammering where it's, or tamping out all these little fires that flare up. I think ultimately a lot of us need to kind of zoom out. And so it's like when you have a sales rep that's saying like, hey, this is duplicating, how can you merge this? Hey, this is another dupe, can you merge this? Like, okay, great. Yes, you can solve that problem immediately. But what I mean by zooming out is, how are you logging how many of those requests you're getting on a regular basis, right? So that you can start to tell the story about the state of your data and why you need to do something about it, so that you can get that leadership buy-in, and so that you can start to so that you can address it in a larger level, as opposed to just kind of constantly just hammering everything down bit by bit there. But yeah.
Awesome. Really, really great insights. Kate and Jeff, you guys are awesome. That was a really great presentation and great answers to our audience questions. I'm sure more will come in, so we will definitely follow up via email with those answers. So yeah, guys, that's a wrap on this webinar. Thank you so much to Kate and Jeff once again for taking the time to put this together for us. And thank you to our audience for tuning in today. Be sure to check out our next session. It's coming up very shortly. It's called 4 Strategies to Listen to and Act on Buyer Signals. So we hope to see you there. Take care, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the day.